He writes, "Who has believed our report? And to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? He grew up before him like a young plant and like a root out of dry ground. He didn't have an impressive form or majesty that we should look at him, no appearance that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by men, a man of suffering who knew what sickness was. He was like someone people turned away from. He was despised, and we didn't value him." Jesus was not especially good looking. He was ordinary. That's why Isaiah wrote, "He didn't have an impressive form or majesty that we should look at him, no appearance that we should desire him." Jesus lived his whole life without ever sinning, and yet those around him didn't love him for his goodness. They hated him for it. And when we first hear that, we think, that doesn't make sense. How can you hate a guy who never sinned, who's just good and loving all the time to everyone? Like, how can you not like that guy? But I want you to imagine, by thinking back to your own childhood, imagine a kid who always does the right thing, is always loving, is always kind, doesn't have a mean bone in his body, and then imagine that child in middle school. Imagine him in junior high. Imagine him in senior high. And when you do, you'll understand that that kid wouldn't be popular. Everyone wouldn't love them. He'd be lame. He'd be weird. He'd be an outcast. He'd be viewed as a naive fool. Whatever the opposite of cool is, it's him. Because his actions were not driven in any way by conformity. His actions were not driven by the need to fit in. His actions were not driven at all by the need for approval of anyone else. That had no power over him, no sway. It didn't matter what everybody else was doing. He was just going to do the right godly thing all the time. That kid is not popular. Not only does he not fit in because he won't do what everyone else is doing, but everyone hates him because there's a part in them deep down that looks at him and knows they should be like him. They should be doing what he's doing. And his very goodness in and of itself innately convicts them. Because they can't lie and say, "Oh, it's fine because everyone else is doing it." Well, Jesus isn't. It's fine to make fun of them so that I can fit in with these kids over here. Well, Jesus isn't doing that. I can't hang out with that guy. He's a loser. I got to fit in. Well, Jesus is hanging out with him. Why would we work hard? There's nobody around to see if we're doing a good job or a bad job. Jesus is doing a good job. Jesus is working hard, even when nobody's watching. They hated him. And it wouldn't have gotten better as he got older. Jesus would have grown up from a very young age, being mocked for his mother's claim that God had made her divinely pregnant. They would have said things about his mom that I can't repeat in church because everybody knew she must have hooked up with a Roman soldier. They would have said stuff about Jesus' dad and how stupid he was to actually believe that Jesus' mom was made pregnant by the Holy Spirit. What an idiot. Jesus, your dad's an idiot and your mom is a fill in the blank. All the time growing up. He didn't grow up in big towns. Jesus grew up experiencing pain, rejection, loss, temptation, and all the frailties of the human condition. Whatever hardship you're going through in your life right now, Jesus has been through it. He's been through it. He knows whatever your pain is. Firsthand, he's endured it. He was despised and rejected by men, a man of suffering who knew what sickness was. He was like someone people turned away from. He was despised and we didn't value him.